All kinds of studies have been made regarding motivation. What is it that motivates people to do the things they do, live the way they live, achieve the goals they achieve? And while there's certainly no single answer to so large and complicated a question, I believe the overriding force which motivates us as persons is a thing I call choice of environment. Environment being the immediate world by which we're surrounded most of the time. Some people make this choice consciously, but I'm certain the great majority of people make the choice unconsciously as a result of environmental conditioning. For example, why, according to statistics, do only about 5 people in 100 achieve financial independence during their lifetimes? Why are only 5 motivated to achieve financial independence, something which almost all people will tell you they want to achieve? Well, it's here that we begin to see motivational forces at work. Motivation is closely linked to environment. Our normal reaction to environment is to act, think, and talk, and conduct ourselves in all of our affairs like the people by whom we are habitually surrounded. Let me give you that again. This is a tremendously powerful thing that is very, very difficult for most people to overcome, if it needs overcoming. Our normal reaction to environment is to act, think, and talk, and conduct ourselves in all of our affairs like the people by whom we're habitually surrounded. Now, since only 5% achieve financial independence during their lifetimes, the odds are 95-5 that in any given case, a person is surrounded by those who are not thinking and working toward financial independence. Instead, he or she is surrounded by, and as a result generally conforms to, a group which does not stress the importance of being financially independent, that does not stress achievement of any kind necessarily. They have conformed to their environment, and I'm using finances as only one example. Other examples could be education, health, speech, work, attitude, and so forth. These people can be said to be those who do not consciously choose their environment, but simply go along with the environment in which they've found themselves. Now, that would be fine if the statistics were reversed. If 95% of the people could be said to be successful, the odds would be excellent if we just went along with the crowd. In that event, selecting an environment might not be important. But this is not the case and never has been. If a person does not choose of his or her own volition the environment in which he or she wants to live and raise kids, the chances are about 95-5 that neither they nor their children will live in an environmental climate offering the best opportunities for success and the enjoyment of life. Let's take a hypothetical case and call him or her an average person in the free world, although there's no such thing as an average person. The trouble comes from acting as though we're average. In the case of these so-called average people, from the time they're born until about 25, most of their lives are spent doing what others have told them to do. As children, it's their parents, and they mold them much as a potter molds clay. They talk as their mothers and fathers talk. They think the way they think. If they think something is bad, they think it's bad. They tend to grow up in their religious faith, and very probably ultimately in their political party. If they have deep-rooted prejudices, they'll probably pick them up from their parents. When they reach school age, they'll begin to emulate the other children by whom they're surrounded. To youngsters in school, the most important thing in the world is to be liked by their group. Acceptance and esteem in the eyes of their contemporaries is their deepest craving. So they'll do what the others do. They'll dress as the others dress. They want to belong, to be liked. But remember, they're following people who don't know any more than they do. They're not playing follow the leader. They're playing follow the follower. Do you remember what Willie Loman said in Arthur Miller's great play, Death of a Salesman? He said, "You know, the important thing is to be liked." Willie Loman had never grown up. Of course it's important to be liked, but this is only one part of life. To Willie it was everything, and his ignorance of life and the world brought him frustration and despair. But to a child in school, on the average, being liked and accepted, doing what the other children do, and having what the other children have, are the most important things in the world, and this vice-like pressure of conformity lasts for year after year after year. It's habit forming. Now let's say our young people are in their early 20s. Out of school, many of them out of university. They must make a decision as to what to do, and it's a little frightening. One day an old friend from the school days asks, "What are you doing?" "Nothing." "Why don't you come down and go to work where I work? It's a good job, the pay's regular, 40-hour week, fringe benefits, the whole thing." So they do, and that's often the end of them. By taking the job suggested by a friend, they're still going along with the gang, but they're also giving less attention to the selection of a career than they would give to selecting a Christmas gift, or a necktie, or a dress. On the job, what's the most natural thing in the world for them to do? Sure, it's to continue to go along with the gang. They've been doing it for 20-odd years. Why should they change now? So on the job, once again, they look around to see how the other people are doing their work, and they begin doing their jobs the same way. You see, no one has told them that they're living in the golden age that humankind has been dreaming of and building toward for thousands of years. No one's told them that from now on out what happens to them will be in their hands, not their parents, not their teachers, not their associates, that it's all up to them from here on out. They have before them perhaps a half-century or more in the greatest age the world has known. Now, what are they going to do with their most productive years? Well, with a steady job, they can get married, which they do. They often go out to a large suburban development and buy a little house or rent an apartment that looks very much like every other house or apartment on the street as far as the eye can see. Makes them feel comfortable. They belong. What they actually do is disappear, as they did in the classroom and in the labor force. They have a steady job, spouses, a place to live, a new car, the biggest paycheck and the highest standard of living the world has ever known, a wonderful start in life. Now what do? Well, they work 40 hours a week. Now this leaves them 72 hours a week when they're neither working nor sleeping. 72 free hours a week, about twice the time they spend on the job earning a living for themselves and their future children. What do they do with their free 72 hours a week? As a rule, they'll do the same thing the other people are doing with their free 72 hours a week. They don't do anything with them. On a typical afternoon, they quit work right on the dot, drive the little car home, go into the little kitchen, kiss the little wife, and say, "I'm tired." It's believed they still say this because they used to hear their parents and grandparents say it in the days when people actually worked hard enough to get tired. The wonderful technological and sociological advances which have given them freedom from back-breaking toil and grinding poverty permit them to retain just that much more energy and good health. After dinner, as likely as not, they'll devote the rest of the evening to watching television. In this way, they're able to lose themselves in worlds they must believe to be more interesting than their own. What they're actually doing is watching other people earning excellent incomes in the pursuit of their careers while they don't make a nickel, and while their most valuable possession, time, is silently dripping away. All too frequently, they don't know how fortunate they are. They don't realize that for the first time in all the difficult centuries of humankind, they no longer need to work from early morning until late at night, 6 days a week, just to earn enough to keep food on the table. Instead, they'll earn from $500,000 to $1 million or more. They have free time, lots of it, and they take for granted a great many luxuries which are the wonder and envy of 3/4 of all the human beings on earth. Furthermore, they can actually decide for themselves what they want to do with their lives. They know how to read and write, and all the great books of the world are available to them at their local library. In short, they usually take for granted all the wonders that have been given them. And with all of this, they live a minimal existence, doing no more than they have to do in order to get by without too much discredit, hoping that times remain good so they can keep their jobs. They think it's only natural that their company, their town, and their country should continue to improve, expand, and advance, but somehow they seem to believe it isn't necessary for them to do likewise. Why do they live this way? Well, it seems to be the way the rest of the people are living. And if they're living that way, they feel it must be all right. Here's a case of mass motivation, of playing follow the follower. We know that our young people have tremendous abilities and potentialities intrinsically their own. There are no other human beings on the planet like them. We know there are, within their jobs, wide fields of interest, which, if they knew about them, would change their lives to ones of excitement and make them real contributors to the economy instead of feeders on it. All too often they walk down a narrow road, yet right in their own jobs and stretching clear to the horizon are the rich, sunlit fields of opportunity. Between them and these fields, however, there's a tall hedge which shields the fields from view, and this hedge is called conformity, and until they break through, cut their way through this thorny barrier, they will never know the joys of really living fully extended. But how can we do this? Well, first we must begin to think. We must look at ourselves objectively for what we really are, distinct individuals with unlimited opportunities for development. Second, we must ask ourselves some questions. Do I want to be like the people I'm following? Are these the people I want my children to be like? Do I want to go where they're taking me? Are they successful? Are they as successful as I want to be? If I continue to go along as I have in the past, where will I be 5 years from now? Am I operating at or near peak efficiency? Am I really a professional, or have I been doing just enough to get by? Am I devoting a part of my time each day to thinking of ways and means by which I can increase my contribution? Am I really aware that my rewards in life will always be in exact proportion to my service? Am I following an intelligent course for improving my mind and increasing my knowledge? Do I have a reading and study program, or do I already think I know enough? I expect my company, my community, and my country to improve with the passing of each year, but what am I doing personally to keep pace with this improvement, or to exceed it? Have I thought much and told my children about how lucky we are to live in a free society in which we can go where we please without having to ask permission, work where we please and at the job of our choice, vote and worship as we please and say what we please? Am I aware of the responsibilities that go with that kind of freedom? The responsibility to produce as much as I can so my freedom may be maintained, the responsibility to become so effective as a person that even if times should become terribly bad for a while, I can go right on providing for my family through the crisis. Third, when I get up in the morning, do I know exactly what it is I'm working toward? Have my life and my work a clear direction and a worthwhile purpose, or am I simply marking time and going along with the crowd? Am I motivated by what I really want out of life, or am I mass-motivated? Harry Emerson Fosdick once wrote, "No steam or gas ever drives anything until it's confined. No Niagara is ever turned into light and power until it's channeled, and no life ever grows great until it's focused, dedicated, disciplined." You see, it's actually easier to win. All we have to do is know some of the rules and follow them. P.G. Hamilton wrote, "A strong life is like a ship of war, which has its own place in the fleet and can share in its strength and discipline, but can also go forth alone to the solitude of the infinite sea. We ought to belong to society and have our place in it, of course, but be capable of a complete and individual existence outside of it, and it's never too late. For with a purpose, a goal, a person will frequently do more and travel farther in a year than he or she might otherwise in a lifetime without one."